With so many different stabilizers on the market, it's hard to know which ones to use. Tearaway, cutaway, washaway. It gets overwhelming. So today we're going to talk about some of the different kinds of stabilizers and their uses. Depending on the design, you want to be sure to have stabilizers that are wide enough for the hoop that you're using. So you may need a couple different sizes. If you use a 4x4 hoop or the larger hoops, you're going to need to have an appropriate stabilizer that's wide enough to be hooped with your project. Stabilizers also come in different weights, anything from a lightweight tearaway to some of the heavier weight cutaways. Tearaway stabilizers are used most frequently. They're lightweight, they almost look like wax paper on the back, semi-transparent, but it's good for something with light stitches, and then you can just take it and pull the stabilizer away very easily. Tearaway stabilizers are really good for things like heirloom embroidery, where you have an entre-deux stitch like the one on this shirt. It helps to support those threads as they're being stitched because it actually pierces holes in the fabric. So if you have a strip of tearaway, just put that underneath the stitches. When you're done, just tear it off like you would any other tearaway. It's also good for things like buttonholes because it gives a little bit of extra support to those stitches. Other tearaway stabilizer looks a lot like tissue paper, but it works the same. You just stitch out your design and then just simply take it out of the hoop and tear away the stabilizer. Some tearaways can be ironed on, and that really helps when you're doing something like smocking, where you have all the gathers and you gather it to a certain width that you need, and then what you do is you put your iron-on tearaway on the back, and it holds everything in place, and then you can tear it off when you're done. It keeps all of your pleats right where they should be, and then you can do your decorative stitching, tear it off, and it's gone. Cutaway stabilizers are permanent. They come in different weights, but they stay in the garment or in the piece that you embroider, and it helps to keep those stitches intact through wear and tear, laundry, and everyday use. You may use it for something like monograms or putting names on something like this stocking, because it'll hold the stitches, give you a nice crisp finish, and it'll hold up over time. When you're done embroidering, you just trim away the excess as close to the stitches as you can get. Cutaway stabilizers work really well with things like crazy patch quilting because it'll support the stitches. It's also so much like paper, you can draw on it. It makes a great pattern, and then you can fold your fabrics and stitch along the lines, and when you're done just clip the excess and you can leave it in, which gives some sturdiness to the piece. I used a medium weight cutaway on this freestanding applique ornament, and that's because it had to support all the outside stitches. So by leaving the cutaway intact on the back, it helped hold everything together and gave kind of a smooth finish to the back. Mesh stabilizers are leave-ins. They're permanent. They're lightweight, and usually you see it listed as a no-show mesh. So you use it with a sheer fabric, something where you don't want the stabilizer to show through to the front. Some of them iron on, and others you can spray and hoop with your fabric. A tearaway stabilizer I use a lot is one that has an adhesive coating. The top is like a protective paper, but you hoop it, then score around the inside and peel that back, and it's sticky. so that you can lay your item that you want to embroider in there, and it'll hold it without having hoop marks. So it's perfect for things that would be damaged if you put them in an actual hoop, or items like this star that were pre-cut, and there's no way you could hoop something like that. So with adhesive stabilizers, you just peel and tear just like you would a regular tearaway. Leaves a little bit of the stabilizer in the back, but that's perfectly fine. Water-soluble stabilizers come in a couple different varieties. One is kind of a milky, it's a fairly substantial plastic type stabilizer. You may recognize names like Vilene or Badgemaster or Solvay, and others are even a mesh that you can use in the hoop and then wash it away. Water-soluble stabilizers are very versatile. You probably have seen them used most often when making lace, like with the angel or the snowflake, but you can also use it in designs like the cutwork napkin, because after you're done you just trim the excess and rinse the rest away. Water-soluble stabilizers also work great with applique designs, and you can create freestanding applique just by stitching it out like you would any other applique, but your base fabric is going to be the stabilizer. When you're done, clip the excess, rinse it out, and then you have an applique that you can use on its own. When you use a water-soluble stabilizer like Vilene or Solvay or Badgemaster, they work terrific with freestanding applique, because when you have satin stitches around the outside of an applique, it kind of perforates the stabilizer. So when you're done, you can just tear it right away. You have a real clean finish. No weight stabilizer showing, and it's perfect. Some water-soluble stabilizers almost look like food wrap. They're so thin, and they will hold up to stitching when you're doing lace and things like that. But you also may want to use it as a topper for fabrics that have a nap or a pile. And I used it on this heart because of some of the very fine lines in the script. When you're done, you just rinse it off, and it helps to support those stitches and keep them above the pile so that it doesn't sink in and disappear. You can do the same thing with heat away, so either one of them are very useful for this. This is a fantastic wash away. Not only is it a mesh type, which is really nice to stitch on, but it also has a peel away adhesive side so that you can hoop that much like you do your regular sticky tack stabilizers, and use that to hold things like felt or items that are hard to hoop. And then when you're all done, you just wash it away. If you have something that you cannot get wet, so that you cannot use water-soluble stabilizer, you can use a heat-away stabilizer. You apply an iron to it, and it turns to little nodules, and you just brush those away. So if you have something like this that has delicate stitches around the outside, tearing it away might hurt the stitching, and maybe it's something that you don't necessarily want to get wet to dissolve the stabilizer. So you can use this heat away or heat and stitch, and then just clip away the excess and iron off the rest. Sometimes you may combine 2 or more different stabilizers in one project. With this star, I used some of the adhesive back so that it would hold it in the hoop, and then a topping on top, the thin water soluble, so that it wouldn't, the stitches wouldn't sink into the felt. So it's always a good idea to keep a journal of your projects. That way when you have combinations that work really well, or they work great with a particular thread, that you can duplicate them later on.